Hi guys, today I'm going to be critiquing some storyboard portfolios from members in my Discord community. I'm going to be going over things such as portfolio layout, presentation, and critiquing the actual storyboards themselves. If you don't know me, my name's Sia. I'm a storyboard artist working in the Los Angeles animation industry for the last 5 years. Currently, I'm storyboarding on the King of the Hill reboot for Hulu, and in the past, I've also storyboarded on projects for Disney and Lego. Alright, let's get started. So this is a really good opportunity for me to talk about the importance of portfolio layout and presentation. Basically, whoever's going to be looking at your portfolio to evaluate whether or not you're a good fit for the job is going to have anywhere from like 30 seconds to 5 minutes to look at your portfolio, because these people are very busy, they have a lot of candidates to look at and other things on their plate, and you want to make their job easier for them essentially. And you want to make sure that if you're applying for a storyboarding job, if they type in or they copy and paste the name of your website, your storyboards need to be front and center. They need to be right there. They shouldn't have to go looking for them, because in the time that they spend looking for your boards, they could just move on to the next person. So for this one, it's quite cluttered and difficult for me to navigate. This text is quite distracting, and I would just get rid of like all of it really, like make it like very, very clean and very minimal. It's okay to have a header image, but if you have text on the header image, you want to make sure that it like stands out in some way, because here the black on black kind of like blends in and makes it difficult to navigate. If you use a website like Weebly, Wix, or Squarespace, a lot of them have basic templates that you can use. And usually those are like very minimal and they're like all laid out for you. And all you have to do is drag and drop your boards into it. It's also a good idea to include contact information, especially in your header, so the producer doesn't have to go looking for your email or your LinkedIn. So I recommend everyone to have like their Instagram, email, like whatever social media you use like up top so people can easily access it. Generally, you don't want the title of the page taking up like the entire first half of it. I recommend everyone to avoid animatics, and the reason for that is because editing is very hard. Editing is a skill in and of itself that takes time and years for people to hone. And most storyboard artists just don't have time for that, because storyboarding is difficult in and of itself. So why would you add extra things onto your plate? You're not applying for an editing job. You could have the most beautiful boards, but if they're edited together badly, that can really count against you. So there's just no need for it. Just have like a PDF click-through of your boards, or like a Google Slides presentation, so the recruiter or the director can kind of like click through your boards and go through the story at their own pace. There's really no need for having an animatic, in my personal opinion. Unless you have a friend or someone else who's like a professional editor and they're amazing, then maybe. But just to be safe, I would avoid it. I like that all of these sections are very clear and very separate. A lot of people will have multiple different animatics like all together in one page without any titles or any kind of like separation between all of them. I also really like seeing process work. If you're working with a director or really anyone else on your team, like they're gonna want to know how your brain works and how you approach storytelling. So it's always good to include thumbnails, character explorations, and just like comics ideas at the end of every sequence. You also don't need like paragraphs explaining the context of the project, because no one's really gonna have time to read it. Okay, moving on. So yeah, I like how these boards are just like front and center, and it's the first thing you see when you get on your website. It's also generally a good idea to provide a little bit of context, just like 1 or 2 sentences for what the boards are, especially if it's for a project that you've worked on professionally. There's a lot of sequences in here though. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's way too many. You don't need that many sequences, especially if they're all from the same show, because generally they're all gonna have the same tone. So pare it down to maybe 1 or 2 sequences from the same show, and then have like a little bit more variety. So if you have other types of sequences, you wanna have it all on one page. Because let's say I start on this page and I wanna check out this sequence, well, it's not available, right? And so if I click on this one, it does show up, but now I'm gonna have a hard time like getting back to like the previous page. So you want to have it all in one page, or kind of have like a menu page where they can like click through on each and every single one. It's a good idea to include professional work in your portfolio because you want to be able to show other people that you already have that industry experience. I personally don't like to critique personal work because, it's someone else's project, it's already been made. It doesn't necessarily reflect your voice because you're incorporating notes from the director, the producer, the network, the client, whoever it is. And it's not really true to who you are as a storyboard artist. So yes, it is a good idea to include professional work in your portfolio, but I personally don't like to critique it because I don't see the point of it. So for these next two portfolios, the layout is essentially where it needs to be. So because of that, I'm going to be critiquing the storyboards themselves. This isn't really that important in the grand scheme of things, and I'm being a little bit nitpicky, but always draw to the edge of the frame. It's something that you'll get called out for on the job, definitely, and especially if you're working with a director who's going to go through your files later, they might want to take some of your shots and widen them out. And if you haven't drawn to the edge of the frame, well, they're gonna have to go through and fill in the blanks themselves, and it just slows them down a little bit. So make sure that you're drawing all the way to the edge of the frame, or maybe even a little bit outside of the frame in Storyboard Pro. Yeah, overall these are very clear. It's easy to follow the storyline. You'll notice that I'm going through these really fast, and that's because a director or a producer is probably going to be doing the exact same thing. When you've been doing this for a while, you know exactly what you're looking for, and you can tell in the first 10 panels or so if the person's a good fit for the job or not. Another thing that you get called out for on the job, especially if you're working at a TV studio, always have a background. It's not as important in feature because your boards are going to be handed off to the layout department and they have the time and the budget to go through and figure out the environment. That's not the case in TV. Your layout department in TV or animation department is just going to have time to copy your boards as they are, so you kind of have to map out the background for them. This part's a little bit jumpy / confusing. Our main character, this guy, is the exact same size on screen in the next shot, but the background's different, so it's technically a jump cut. He's also never seen exiting or entering the frame, so that's very jarring. You want to make sure that you show your characters exiting or entering the frame entirely. Or you could also make this shot a bit closer and make this a bit wider so it doesn't feel like as much of a jump cut. When you have camera moves, make sure that you're providing all of the detail necessary, because I'm having a hard time telling whether or not this is a cut or a camera move. I'm guessing it's a camera move, but it's not very clear. This is a good time to talk about the difference between a motivated versus an unmotivated camera move. In this shot, the camera seems to have a mind of its own, and I'm not quite sure why it's going around the character and then going all the way up. I'm assuming just to provide more information about the environment that this character is in, but you don't need a camera move for that. You can just make that a cut. You can just cut to a wide. This is a motivated camera move, which I like to see, and it's motivated because the camera is just following the movement of the kitten, so it feels more natural. Because if you see a cat moving, well, your eyes are going to naturally follow it, right? So the camera is mimicking the human eye in that scenario, and it feels a lot more natural and organic. This is a nice POV shot. Yeah, I really like this little movement because the character pets the cat, and then we immediately cut to see the character's point of view. So we really get in the character's head and we feel what he's feeling. Moving on. I like the compositions a lot. They're very thoughtful. Because you could just open on a generic wide shot of an arcade, but you choose to do the banner, and then we reveal that it's open, and then we see people inside. So it's just nice to see. It's different. This is something that I see beginner artists do all the time, and I myself did it a lot when I was first starting out in the industry. For some reason, we're all scared to leave in any kind of construction lines or guidelines when we're drawing. So in an attempt to have clean boards and clean lines, we end up with very iffy anatomy and proportions. So it is 100% okay for there to be guidelines for the skull or the neck or the shoulder blades. Also, don't be afraid to draw outside of the frame to kind of map out where your characters are spatially. Because once I do this, I realize this arm is way too short. And practice your hands, don't be afraid of hands. Eye line is also very important because are they looking at their hands? At each other? It's kind of hard to say. This is a good example of what we like to call being in the hole. Because if I map out where this character is spatially, the ground plane is somewhere here. So I'm assuming the horizon line is also somewhere here. And so if I kind of extrapolate and draw this out, this character is standing in a hole in the ground. So you'd want to either lower this character further down, or you would want to raise this character so you can like see their hips and their legs over here. This is a good example of cutting on the action and then having a motivated camera move. I would break this down a bit more though with a few more poses. Generally, when you have a camera move, you want the audience's eye to not have to move too much during the shot. So if my eye is right here, well, if I click through, the character is moving from one side of the screen to another. And it's a bit jarring for me to have to like follow where they're going. So you'd want to have them roughly in the same spot on screen and then show the background moving around them. Or you would just want to have more breakdowns of this so our eye has time to kind of catch up a little bit. This is a really nice shot. That is all I have for you guys for now. If you're interested in a portfolio review or my mentorship options, I'll leave a link down below. I hope that was helpful. These are a lot of the things that I've picked up over the last 5 years of working in the industry and reviewing other people's portfolios. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.